Big welcome everyone to today's live class. So how is everybody? It's absolutely freezing cold here in Dublin.
Baltic.
That's why I'm wearing my fleece. So again, anyone that's commenting underneath, let us know where you're watching in from and what's the weather like in your part of the country. Is it wild? Is it wet? Is it wonderful? Make us all mad jealous. So lots of you are asking us about foam-free arrangements, more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, and a lot of you are saying, what about chicken wire? You're having a few little problems with chicken wire. So today's class is all about being foam-free and using chicken wire. Hopefully I'll answer some of your questions and give you lots of little tips and tricks how you can get around using the chicken wire. Now obviously if anybody has any questions at all, post your questions in the comments. I will respond to everyone tonight. So even anyone that's watching on the replay, feel free to obviously comment underneath and get involved. We would love if you would share our video. We'd really appreciate it. Again, we struggle as in trying to advertise the school like every business out there. It's so hard like with advertising, and again on social media there's so many other companies, lot more bigger companies than ourselves there out there advertising, and we're really struggling to get the word out there. So we really would appreciate if you shared our video, and that will help us with the algorithm of Facebook and Instagram. So big welcome to everyone that's joining us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube and on Facebook. So mechanical wise, what are you going to need? So I recommend 2 pieces of chicken wire. These would have been square pieces to start off with, and then just kind of before we went live, I've started to kind of curve in the edges of them. The reason I did it off live is it's quite sharp, the edges of it, and some of it sticks in you, and I don't want to be using any bad language when we're on live. So I did a lot of that kind of work beforehand. I'm going to use an aluminium container, which you can purchase. Most wholesalers have these. I know a lot of our Module 1 students probably have this or something similar, because we normally include it as part of our kits. You do realise that when you do a course here at Case Flower School, down to your scissors, your knife, your tapes, your wires, your ribbon, your floral foam, baskets, containers, everything, absolutely everything is sent out to the student. Even all the flowers, like if I'm working with Ranunculus and Tulips, you work with Ranunculus and Tulips, and all the fresh flowers come direct from Holland, so they're immaculately fresh, you know, that way top quality, and it gives the students the experience of the treatment and the conditioning of flowers. Now again, if anybody watching there has any questions about attending one of our training courses here at the school, drop us an email, info@caseflowerschool.com. Anyway, back to the container. You can buy the likes of this container off wholesaleflowers.ie. They're based in Dublin. Somebody might tag them there in the comments. Or Evergreen Silk Plants, they're based in RD. Or O'Neill's Flowers, they're based up in Carlingford. So any of our regulars that are watching, they might tag them 3 companies for us. And again, you can contact them and you can buy them online. Flower wise, I'm going to use Ranunculus and Tulips. I've 20 Ranunculus, I've 10 Tulips. Both of these flowers are thirsty flowers. They need lots and lots of water, and to be honest, it actually suits them to be in a foam-free arrangement design. Foliage wise, I'm going to use a bit of Ruscus, and I'm also going to use some Rosemary and some Silver Sussex. And I have that all cleaned down and cut just to save time. Now, the trick with the chicken wire, I find it's easier to use 2 layers of chicken wire. So 1 small piece of chicken wire is scrunched up and placed down and wedged into the bottom of your container, like so. And the second one, okay, is kind of like sticking up a little bit higher over the top of the container, and again that's kind of like wedged down there nice and tight. And with this particular design, I'm going to leave the handle sticking up, but it's completely up to yourself what you decide to do. And just to keep the handle in the centre, I'm just going to insert a little piece of the soft Ruscus on one side and the soft Ruscus on the opposite side. Now the idea is that when you're inserting it down into the chicken wire, it's also going down through the second chicken wire underneath, and that's what makes it more secure. So now I'm going to fill my container up with water, and fill it up quite high with the water to make sure that all your stems are actually tipping the water and getting a drink. Now if you're going to transport it, it's a disaster if you have the water in. The water is going to spill all over the place. So the thing is, you can always make it on site and then fill it up, make it on site in your shop, and then fill it up with water when you're actually at the church, at the hotel or whatever. Now what I'm going to do with a couple more stems of this Ruscus is I'm going to insert it in low down on the chicken wire on an angle. It's going down into the 2 layers of chicken wire, and that's kind of like what gives us a little bit of foliage around the outside. I'm going to be mixing the foliage, so that's why I'm leaving quite a big gap in between these sprigs, okay? So I'm going to use 3 or 4 of them around the outside just to give us a little bit of an outline. Now when you're working with chicken wire, your arrangements are never going to be as formal as they would be if you were using floral foam. So you just have to accept that. So now what I'm going to do around the outside is I'm going to add in a little bit of the rosemary and a little bit of the silver Sussex. And again, just randomly, a few little pieces here and there in between our Ruscus, and then the same in between the next layer of Ruscus, and just working around. Now if there's a curve on the foliage, you know the way like there's a natural curve on it, like work with it and let it like flow down over the edge of your container. And then that will help to camouflage any mechanics that you decided to use. To be more sustainable, I didn't use anchor tape to strap that in, but you could if you wanted, or you could use a piece of twine. I could have tied it to where the handle was, and again I could have brought it over the edge. So you can see the way I'm working my way around the edges, inserting it into the top of the chicken wire, and again the lower stem is going down into the lower chicken wire. And again it's a very informal kind of like wild kind of posy effect. Now what I'm going to do is, like in the top of the chicken wire, is I'm going to randomly add in a few pieces kind of like straight. And what's happening now is they're working down into the spiral and the crossover of all the other stems as well as the chicken wire, and that's what helps to hold them in place and keeps them that little bit secure. So that's what it looks like so far, and if you wanted to use a lot more foliage, you could, and keep this as an all foliage design. But we don't want to overdo it with the foliage, because obviously I'm going to put a lot of flowers into this display today. But the great thing is, if you were making these arrangements in advance, you could have them all greened up, and then you could put the flowers in near the time of the event. The other advantage I find with the chicken wire is you get away with a lot less foliage, because it's so much easier to hide and camouflage the chicken wire than it is to try and hide and camouflage your florist foam. So now I'm going to take out my ranunculus to start with. Well, the ranunculus and the tulips. I'm going to place the ranunculus on one side of me and the tulips on the opposite side. There could be a mixture in there. Now the tulips naturally have that kind of bend, okay? So I'm going to use a good few of these around the outside. So I'm working in between the chicken wire, and again trying to insert it down into that kind of like crossover that I talked about. So I'm leaving a little bit of space kind of in between the flowers as I work my way around, and just letting them kind of like flow over the edge. An odd one I'm obviously going to trim a little bit short. But again, I want it to be kind of wild and wonderful, and that little bit kind of more informal rather than being a formal sort of a flower. That was actually a ranunculus that I stuck in that last time there, not a tulip. So I was planning on just working the tulips around the outside for the moment, and then I'll work onto the ranunculus. I'll keep 1 or 2 tulips for the centre. Now again, if anybody's watching, make sure that you comment underneath. If you are in a flower club, I'd love if you shared our videos to your flower club. Or again, if you're thinking to yourself that I'd love to watch this maybe later on this evening, you haven't got time now, just share it to your own page and you will be able to watch it at a time that suits you. So there I have, besides that ranunculus there, I have a couple of tulips going around the outside. And now I'm going to add in a couple of tulips kind of towards the centre area of the arrangement. So again, on either side of the handle, just kind of adding in 1 or 2 flowers there. And that's just kind of giving you an idea of what it looks like. So it's not as formal as your typical flower arranging, where you would using like your number 1 or your 3 around or your 3 in between. So now we're going to work onto some of the ranunculus, and again I'll stand 1 or 2 kind of in the centre to start off with, and then I'm going to add a couple of them around the outside. Put your flowers on a slant, because as I said, these drink an awful lot of water. And again, if you cut your flowers on a slant, you open up a bigger hole than if you cut straight across. So then with your flowers, you know, that way it's easier for them to drink the water. Now you will find when I'm working around the outside with the ranunculus, there's not as much of a bend or a curve on them. So again, they don't kind of like hang down. But like other flowers that you could use instead of the ranunculus would be the anemones. And the anemones, again, have that nice little curve on the outside, and that would work, you know what I mean, to get that kind of like more natural flow around the outside of your arrangement. And that, I suppose, would be one advantage of floral foam. When you have floral foam, it's easier to insert the flower and make it go exactly where you want it to go. Do you know that way? Where with the chicken wire, you're kind of like hoping for the best, and you're depending on the flower to basically do the job for you. So again, working around the outside, adding in a few of the ranunculus here and there, and then I'm going to start working through the centre part of the arrangement. Now I did break one or two of the tulips there, and they're just going to get me one or two spare ones to just kind of like take their place, just to give me a few little extra ones, thanks a million. So for some reason I ended up with 2 broken ones out of my 10. You will find with the tulips, remove a lot of the foliage, okay? Because again, the foliage going down into the chicken wire kind of like wedges up the hole and kind of makes it more difficult to insert. So any of the kind of like lower leaves, take them off, but any of the higher leaf, if you want to leave it on, it's absolutely perfect. So hopefully you're enjoying this arrangement, and as I said, if anybody has any questions, put them in the comments, you know that way. Remember, if you're training to be a florist, to learn how to do what we call your geometrical shapes, okay, and by the way, there's 8 geometrical shapes altogether in Floristry, would you recommend, or what we would prefer to do here at the school, is teach you how to get the geometrical shape in floral foam, that we can correct you. Now you might say, God, how can you get corrected when you're doing an online course? With our courses here at the school, all our students get a one-to-one WhatsApp number to their tutor. Now it's not a WhatsApp group, okay? So what happens in the WhatsApp stays in the WhatsApp. Nobody else gets to see kind of like what's going on. So if you find that you're making an arrangement and you'd like a little bit of feedback, you know that way, on like, do you need more flowers, or did you get a good shape, or do you need shorter material or taller material, or whatever it might be, that is the whole idea of the WhatsApp. So you're able to then WhatsApp photographs and videos of your work to your tutor between the hours, well, to be honest, 24/7, but between the hours of 9 o'clock in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon, all your work will be corrected in the WhatsApp, you know what I mean, in your WhatsApp one-to-one. And you can either text message your tutor, you can voice message, we normally get them all on the voice message, or you can actually send on videos or photographs. Now I'm going to move on to back to this display here, is adding in a little bit more of the Ruscus, more for filling it in. Now again, a little bit of advice to you, don't overdo the foliage at the beginning, because you could end up cramming up your chicken wire too much, and then what happens when you start to get the flowers in, you can't actually get anything down into the second kind of chicken wire. So leave a little bit of space and then go back afterwards, and as I'm doing here, it's just adding a little bit more texture kind of in between the sprigs of flowers that's already there. So just a couple of little sprigs, doesn't need much extra, and again, as I said, it's all just to give me a little bit of filling and a little bit of texture. Now what you could add in here is gyp, or the likes of wax flower, or to be honest, depending on the colours that you want, like whatever sort of filler, like Aluminium or sea spray, they would be perfect. Or again, if it's springtime, Solidaster, Solidago, you know, those beautiful yellows, that would be brilliant as well. Or again, you might be asking yourself, like, what other flowers could you use? To be honest, like, any flower would do. If you're kind of restricted and it's carnations and chrysanthemums that you happen to have, you could absolutely, you could make this arrangement in carnations and chrysanthemums. But I just find with the spring bucket, like the aluminium bucket, to me it was kind of like that spring effect. And that's why I kind of thought, let's go for the spring flowers, the ranunculus and the tulips. Now everything is really, really fresh here. So again, they're kind of like quite small. You can see the ranunculus, they're not even blown. But I will find like over the next day or two, or like once there's a little bit of heat, as I said, it's absolutely freezing here today in school, and these flowers came in last night. So once they get a little bit of heat, or they're sent out as a delivery or a gift to somebody, you will find once they have it in their sitting room or their living room, the heat of their home will absolutely open these flowers, no bother at all, and you'll find that your tulip then will kind of like start to reflect back. You see the way you kind of get the petals on it. Now you could do this yourself, but sometimes it's nicer to let them kind of open naturally. But you see the effect you get if you turn the tulips. So again, I'll just reflex a few of them. It's just a matter of like turning the petal inside out basically. And it just kind of like holds in place. So just turn that around now that you can kind of see the effect. You'll often see like wedding florists would do it. That one's just not open enough. You just need the tulip that little bit open before you do it. And like florists often do it in a bride's wedding bouquet and it looks beautiful. And some varieties, not all varieties, but some varieties of roses you're able to do it too. But it'll give you an idea what our tulips are going to look like when they open up that little bit more in the flower arrangement or in our floral display or vase of flowers or bucket of flowers. And just add in one more tulip in here, and again because it's slightly open I'm just going to reflex our petals back here just to give you an idea what it looks like. There we go, we just turn that around. So there is a very simple vase. I think I have 11 tulips. I was planning on 10. So I have 11 tulips, I have 20 stems of Ranunculus, and again I have a selection of foliage, Silver Sussex, Rosemary and Ruscus. Again, I encourage if anybody has any questions or if there was something you would like to see, why not put that in the comments. Again, share our videos, we really appreciate it. If you have any questions about our training courses, our professional training courses, where this is all more hobby and easy arrangements, you know what I mean, we do go into a lot more of the technical side, especially the marketing side of working in a flower shop, or the business end of running your own business or running your own flower shop. That would all be covered on the professional programs. So for more information on them, drop me an email, info@kaysflowerschool.com. There's lots of funding available, and everyone thinks the funding is only for unemployed. So yes, unemployed people can get funding, but so can self-employed, and so can people just working for themselves or working for someone else. So again, drop me an email and I can send you the information on that. Or again, go to the website and you'll get all the information on the website, www.kaysflowerschool.com. Join us again for another free class.